He's just disappeared.
Derek, come forward.
The most haunted theatre in the world, lost and alone at Drury Lane.
This is feeling very weird.
Hello and welcome to Most Haunted. Now, according to theatrical folklore, it's incredibly lucky to have a resident ghost in a theatre, which must make this week's location one of the luckiest theatres in the world because it has at least 5 ghosts. We're in London at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, and we're going to be spending 24 hours hoping that the resident ghosts are going to put on one big performance.
There's been a theatre on this site since 1661, and the present building dates from 1812, which makes it the oldest theatre in London. It's reputedly the most haunted theatre in the world, and Drury Lane is now almost as famous for its ghosts as for its long-running musicals.
Now, Jason, this is supposed to be the most haunted theatre in the world. Is that true?
Allegedly, yes.
Right. What sort of ghosts are here?
We've got an interesting mixture of different hauntings supposed to be in this building. The main one is probably London's most famous ghost, and that's the Man in Grey, who's supposed to be an actor from the 1700s. One of the strange things about the Man in Grey ghost is that 70 people saw him at the same time. Now, this took place during a photo session on stage. The actors were staring into the darkness and saw a movement here where we're seated, and 70 people watched the Man in Grey walk across this very area.
Now, because of its reputation, a lot of people actually come and try to find ghosts here, don't they?
Yeah, we are actually following the footsteps of the greats, and that is James Wentworth Day, who's a very famous ghost writer, and also Harry Price, who came here. They both held an investigation actually in the upper circle where we're sat here. And James Wentworth Day believes that he actually saw the Man in Grey, but not as a figure, as most people have reported it, more as a sort of blue haze that moved across the area and into the wall.
What do you think might happen to us tonight?
Theatres are eerie places when there's nobody in them. We're used to them being full of people and quite noisy places with music and laughter. When we're here this evening, it's going to be dead silent. There's no windows the outside, so it's very much sort of like being in a shell. So it's going to be a very peculiar kind of environment for us to investigate. I think that will put us on edge. We may see something, we may not, but we've got to remember noises in here are going to be massively echoed because of the shape of the building. So any small, tiny, probably insignificant sound will be blown into probably an unnatural proportion, and we need to keep our feet on the ground.
As usual, joining Jason and myself with a fearless crew, constantly working to try to catch something paranormal on camera. And Derek Okora, our spiritualist medium, would arrive later with no prior knowledge as to the whereabouts of the location.
Theatre Royal Drury Lane is supposedly the most haunted theatre in London. The best known story is the story of the Man in Grey, who is a chap who, dressed in 18th century clothing, walks along the back of the upper circle in the building. Now, he's been sighted on lots of occasions, so people have reported seeing him following the same route across the back of the upper circle and disappearing through a wall. In 1939, over half the cast of the Dancing Years were on stage for a photo call, and they reported seeing this character walking up across the back. Dan Leno was a very famous pantomime dame who performed here at the end of his career. He died in 1904, and he did about 20 pantomimes here as the dame, and he's reported to haunt the backstage areas.
When you know about these ghosts that they're supposed to be here, you sort of think, will I see one? I don't know. And I'm not a one to necessarily believe that they're all around, but when I get out at night, I'm usually across the stage to the stage door. And one night, I heard like footsteps as I going from the stage to the stage door. And I looked and could see nothing. But I did hear footsteps, and I thought, now, it could be anything.
There's a ghost that people call the Lavender Lady, because the apparition is noticed because you can smell lavender in the backstage areas. Also, going back further in time, Joseph Grimaldi, the famous clown who gave the name Joey to clowns, he used to work between here and Sadler's Wells, and he used to perform here, then run all the way up to Islington to do his next performance at Sadler's Wells, and then run back again. He was incredibly physically fit. He did tumbles and jumps and leaps, and he actually got old far before his time. Had his farewell benefit performance here when he could hardly walk on stage, and he was in his 40s at that stage, but he had crippled himself with the work that he did. And it's rumoured that he haunts the stage area, and if there's any actor that isn't actually giving their best performance, then Grimaldi will come up behind him and give him a kick up the bottom.
I know someone who said he was given a kick at the bum to say, get on with it, because he thought, oh, I can't tonight, oh, God, I can't do it tonight. And he said he didn't know where it came from, but there was a kick up the bum.
Theatre's a very insecure profession, always has been, always will be. Most people's jobs are related to shows, so they can last anything from weeks to years these days. But because of the insecurity, most people in the business tend to be very superstitious. And that's one of the reasons why people like to cling to stories about ghosts and the traditions of the buildings. And that's another thing about superstitions. Superstitions are really traditions, so people like to carry them on because it makes them feel a bit more secure. So, for example, the Scottish play, Shakespeare's play, you would never actually name it unless you were appearing in it or rehearsing in it. That goes back to the original production, which was supposedly fraught with disaster. So people never mention it. It contains real curses. Shakespeare lifted curses that he had heard and included them in there, the witches and the evil, the blood, the killings. So people don't do it. If they do say it, then they have to leave the room they're in, turn around 3 times, spit, and ask for somebody to bring them back into the room, or at least give them permission to come back into the room. Or they can actually do a quote from Hamlet, which is, "Angels of grace defend us," and that will cover them if there's nobody else around as well.
Well, I think you're very brave. Well, I mean, as long as you're all together, it seems to be quite fun in a way. I don't know, having said that. I hope they're not in here. I don't know. Yeah, no, it'd be great. The auditorium is so beautiful. It's lovely. You know, and I think it's got such history that I love it, really. I do love it, because it's really what I call a real theatre. It's really, I like old-fashioned theatres, and this certainly is that.
Well, I'm as sceptical as anybody about any of these things. There must be a lot of auto-suggestion in it. But when you do hear stories about the man in grey where more than one person has seen him at any one time, and also there was a cleaner who reported seeing him sitting in a seat, who actually described him perfectly well, but it was her first day at work, so she couldn't have spoken to anybody to give her the idea to report it. It does make you wonder. So I'm sceptical, but I'm prepared to believe that there's something to it.
It's easy to understand why people fall in love with the theatre, and especially in a building as beautiful as this. Maybe that's why some people refuse to leave, even when they're dead. In the late 1700s, a fight broke out between 2 of the actors. One lunged at the other with his cane, piercing his eye and instantly killing him. But curiously enough, it's not the dead man that haunts Drury Lane, but his murderer, and he's often seen early evening at the time when the fight broke out. One of the most famous characters here is Joseph Grimaldi, who was known as the father of the clowns. Now, the clown makeup that he created has been copied by British clowns ever since.
With Derrick's arrival and the theatre well into its evening's performance, what better time to relax and prepare for the night's events?
Well, when we're at the theatre tonight, I really don't know at this point what to expect. And generally, wherever you find expression as with actors and theatres, what is charged in the atmosphere, I find, is this gentleness, this sensitivity.
Most ghost stories are sort of frightening or eerie or unnerving. The ones here aren't. They're friendly. I mean, The Man in Grey, when it's seen, it's taken as an omen of good fortune. It's always reportedly seen before successful productions. There's a nice story about the helping hands, which usher people around the stage during rehearsals and give them a friendly pat when they're in the right place.
As the evening was drawing to a close for the theatregoers, it was time for our evening to begin. As usual, we wanted our spiritualist medium, Derek Okora, to see if he could contact any ghosts waiting in the wings.
Well, Yvette, Jason, I'm picking up exactly zilch, nothing.
You're not picking anything up.
Nothing whatsoever. This is quite alarming. If there's no spirits about, I can't do my job. And it's the only thing that frightens me.
Should we just have a walk round and see, go into some of the major parts of the theatre?
I'd like to do that. Yeah.
Which way do you fancy going?
I think we should go up into the circle,
Okay.
actually, which I think is up this main staircase.
Okay, let's do that.
Should we go up there?
Okay.
So Derek was picking up nothing. This was very unusual and a little disconcerting for us. However, as we entered the auditorium, we were all relieved as Derek felt the presence of a man.
Now, since I've come into just through that door, I've become very, very aware. Not so much the presence of the man. He walks, often, up across the back here. He comes down and he has a look over from this level, then retraces his steps and goes back again. And he's up and down on a regular basis. This man is like a troubled soul. And if we can, I'd like to walk up to that particular space and see, when I get closer to that energy, whether I can then extend on the feelings that are coming here. Yeah, it's here. Just at this section here. Okay. And he often comes through those doors and does this, you see, and views down.
Why is he here and what's...
Right. He's troubled. He's troubled because of an act that he did, and he's remorseful. And it's like he roams up and down here, constantly playing back what he actually did. But he's remorseful for it.
Do you know what he did?
Yes, I got a dagger in my side, and it ran between my ribs. And I feel this man did exactly that. Charles Macklin! Charles Macklin! This person whose life he took away is also in the essence here. But this other soul will not forgive him.
Who's the other soul?
Arnold! He's coming into my energy. He's coming into my energy. Arnold. You'll never forgive him. I'll never forgive him. I will never forgive him. Jealous of my talent. He always was and he always will be. How dare he? How dare he? He is the lesser. Even Hallam agrees with me. Hallam warned me. He warned me, but I didn't listen. Oh, what a folly. Oh, what a folly.
What year is it?
1700.
1700?
He took my life.
For jealousy?
Yes.
What was he jealous of?
Of my acting.
So you were
I'm the principal.
You were an actor?
I'm a principal. Without me, it couldn't go on. I can't leave.
Why?
This wretch keeps me here. He's a wretch. A wretch.
Come forward. Just come
Carl.
I'm here, Derek.
Carl.
Derek, come forward, Derek. I'm here.
It's a wretch.
Come forward. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
What just happened?
The one who murdered him won't let him out of the atmosphere, and he won't forgive him, so he keeps him here in his torment. He's keeping him into the atmosphere because they're both in equal levels.
No, Derek. Where were we when you didn't feel anything? Just come with me. Come with me.
Let me go.
Can we take you downstairs? Where you didn't feel anything earlier, so you should be clear. Come on.
That's frightening.
Sit down.
That was very interesting.
Just to try and clear it.
That's made me feel sick, that, to
Has
look
it?
at that. Yeah, it has. I don't like it at all. It freaks you out a bit.
I've seen mediums go into alleged transfiguration, where a spirit is alleged to take on temporal possession of the body and control. I've seen Derek do it before.
He was just sweating and just so upset, and to actually call for Carl, because he actually has said to Carl in the past, if you see me in trouble, you must say to me, grab hold of me and say, come forward, come forward. It's not nice to see at all. It's frightening.
It's interesting.
That's the way I felt, as if he was trapping me, wouldn't let me go either. And, oh, wow. For how long, I don't know what it was, but for, it seemed to me like about an hour.
Wow.
And he was showing me the room where, you know, his thoughts were he killed this man with like a sword knife type thing. And when he killed him and he looked down, his bones are...
Well, this is the backstage area. Isn't it amazing?
It is.
Now, there's the stage there. Do you want to walk onto
Can
the
I?
stage?
Yes.
Yeah? Sure. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Here. He would come to these physical people as they were performing, and he'd gently, and I mean gently, do this, you see,
Oh, gosh.
and maneuver these people to better angles. And he used to take pride in this. Very proud man.
Who would do this?
Arnold
Is this the same Arnold as before?
Woodrow, yes.
Arnold Woodrow.
Woodrow, it sounds
Woodrow.
like. And he... Thank you, Sam. I can hear him talking. Okay, he wants to clear this up once and for all. Once and for all. What does he want to clear up? He wants me to do that with the two fingers. The two fingers, like this, you see. He wants to clear it up. He wants to clear it up. Now, this man, in his proud presence, because he just fills my chest here, I'm much taller here, in his essence. He's there.
Where?
He's now showing himself.
Where? Where?
This middle box.
The one with the
We've got
seats in?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chairs. Go from the end and go to the second chair. He is standing now. I'll describe him to you. This man, he's, because of the light, it's either grey-blue, long, like a cape type thing, a cape coat, and he is... This is the one that was murdered.
This is the man that was murdered.
Yeah.
Is this Woodrow?
This is Woodrow. And he is... It's like as if he's beckoning like this, and he's in total approval. Total approval of what I'm trying to say. Okay? And he will not, this man will not forgive the way in which his life was taken was taken away from him. And it was in a room, and also he states this, he wants this to be cleared up. It is him whose life was taken. It was him. And also he shows me a wall and his memory out of the physical body, looking at his remains, almost skeletal, behind that bricked wall.
Is this the same man that sort of took over you?
Yes, this is him.
Right. You can see him there, he's
Yes,
still there.
he's still there.
So if I was to shout something out now, would
Yes.
there likely to be a reaction on his face that you could see?
Yes, whatever.
Shall I try
hope-
it?
Yeah, try it.
Why can't you leave?
He's smiling. Smiling with, I feel, psychically, I pick up the, it's like, do we understand? Do we understand? You see his presence of, even in spirit body, his presence of his talent and his, I suppose, ego is still retained there.
Derek was suddenly distracted by the distinct sound of a voice.
I just heard a man say, my name's Joe. My name's Joe. It sounded like Joe Garibaldi. He's a nice man, him. he's a cheap look. The smile.
Is he there?
He's elegant, yes.
Where is he?
He's here to the side of this stanchion here. Just there.
So if I was to walk in...
Walk over, Yvette, just see what you can feel. Let's see what he does.
It's cold.
Yeah.
Ooh, can you feel that?
Feel it?
Can you feel that?
What can you feel?
A draft?
No.
You can't feel that?
No.
It's there.
You can't feel where I'm... Can somebody please come and stand here?
No, I cannot feel
Can you not
anything.
feel...
Oh, it is drafty here. Very drafty here.
He's just said, I was the best. I was the best. Not them two. Me. But I'm not as egotistical as those two. I used to do it. I was outperforming. And of course they could hear me from the chest and here. The applause. Now, I just got this very pronounced way as he's influenced me in my walking with this man. It's like as if Joe, in his expressions, in acting, was like he would take on many, many parts and would have no hesitation, no qualms. It's like, whatever is given to me, whatever parts I will express from here, and we'll let those people decide who is. And they'd walk. Like this, you see. Like this back. What a lovely soul.
Was this amusing spirit the ghost of Joe Grimaldi the clown? Next, Derek was drawn to a tunnel down behind the stage.
He lay here.
Who lay there?
Arnold. Why did he break him up behind the wall?
Who bricked him up?
He's sorry, Macklin. If he could turn the clock back, he's very sorry. In a fit of rage, he's just absolutely continually, bless him, cursing himself for what he did towards Roe. And he said, just in blind fury and non-understanding, he had to hide his body. Some thought it was Hallam. No, it was Arnold. That is, I wish, oh, let it comes.
Was you saying he was bricked up behind this wall?
I feel there's a breaking up here, yes. Keane comes down to have a look. Keane, in actual fact, helped expose this. Helped expose it. He was the one that wanted Woodrow to be found. And to get the people to knock the wall down. Was the wall knocked? That was part of changes and renovation. I know he's done a terrible act by taking the other man's life, but I feel other than that, he had goodness in him anyway. He just had one of these faults that we all have, that, you know, a pent-up anger that we can let fly. And unfortunately, he let it fly and then took it too far.
It doesn't seem right, though, that a murderer and that the person he murdered are still together in the same atmosphere.
Exactly, it doesn't seem right. But, you know, this is, and has happened in many places, many sites all over the world, where the killer and also the person who's lost their life have found themselves stuck in the same energy, level of atmosphere. One, not screaming to get out of it, but voicing an opinion and then shouting back. And you know, after all this time, they're still going through, when they cross each other's pathways, they're still going through, it's like a reenactment of the time of the death. What hurt him, I feel more, is to be placed behind a wall, his physical remains, more so than the actual act of killing him.
Right.
The barbaric way in which to conceal him has more affected him for not wanting to give the forgiveness.
Was he concealed alive then, or are you saying he was aware he was concealed once he was dead? So you're saying his spirit was aware of that?
His spirit was aware.
So he wasn't concealed alive?
No. He physically actually left the body, and I feel actually watched this man breaking him up.
Watch
putting
his
him
own
down.
body being immured?
Yes.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
very much so. So of course that adds to the negative spice of things, doesn't it?
And on that note, shall we be brave and turn all the lights off? Let's do that.
Let's do it.
Let's go and get the night vision cameras then. Let's go do that.
The actors and audience had gone home long ago, leaving the theatre dark and empty. Was this the cue for ghostly feet to tread the boards? And would we be their audience? We decided now was a good time to switch to our night vision cameras and split into two groups. Mark, Martin and Ian were in one group. Jason, Rick, Carl and myself were in another.
Where?
We all had seen a man with chains walk behind Carl. We also heard the sound of the chains and caught it on tape. And oddly enough, the sound doesn't fade away. It abruptly stops.
Did you just see someone down there?
I saw one with chains.
He walked across here.
No, he walked across there. He didn't. Yes, he did.
Must have gone upstairs. Well, he's nowhere around. He could not have made it up these stairs at that speed.
You were standing with your camera pointing at the three of us.
And we looked beyond you, and there was a man walking from the left to the right.
Side on.
Carrying a load of chains.
That's a man with chains.
A massive bunch of chains.
In black.
Dark cat, a little fat cat.
A little stout man, quite sort of with a bit of a tummy.
Probably about 5'8", 5'9".
But we can't find him.
There's no way he could have come up here. He's just disappeared.
There's nobody else here, apart from us.
We never did find out who the man with the chains was. Was it a ghost we had seen or someone else in the building who we didn't know about? Whoever or whatever it was, they disappeared without a trace.
We don't know if we're supposed to be up here, do we? I mean, this is just... How did we find this, by the way?
The boys continued their night walkabout up in the Flies, situated high above the stage where scenery is flown onto the set. It is a notoriously dangerous area and the site of many accidents.
Here goes. This is absolutely fantastic up here. You can basically see, well, nothing because it's so dark. But we're just right on top of the stage. It's incredible. There's all the stage weights that they... What was that? Something touched me. Oh, right.
In there, something moved.
Yeah?
There's not a door or anything, is there?
There's no door, no.
Have a look.
Meanwhile, Jason and I were keeping a vigil in the empty theatre auditorium. I wasn't 100% happy about what Jason did next.
If there's anybody here who wishes to communicate with Yvette or Jason, please give us a sign that you can hear us and understand us. We're here as your friends. We're here to prove you exist. If you wish to talk to us or communicate with us or make yourself known to us, please give us a sign by sight, sound or smell, either to myself or to Yvette or to both of us. Is there anybody here who wishes to communicate with us? It's very cold here, isn't it?
Yeah. I am getting a draft as we
I
speak.
am actually now, but you know it's cold, so.
Yeah. I didn't like that at all. Something just blew right across my legs.
I can't get the
Something just blew in my ear. Something did just blow in my ear, and it wasn't Jason. That's it. That was freaky. That was freaky, Jason.
What just happened?
Well,
What did you feel?
no, it was like
Quite hard?
yes,
On this ear, not...
on this one,
I
and I
wasn't
thought it
there.
was you.
I didn't.
This is one experience I will never forget. You're sitting in
The world's most haunted theatre.
We'll just tell you what we've encountered so far. I had a cold breath on my right ear. It wasn't Jason because his head wasn't in, he was looking away. Had a cold, again, like a on my legs. I think we'll have to look back at the tape. Dark shadow just over to my right here, over the back wall.
And I've just felt, as we were talking, we've noticed the temperature drops, but we'll probably sort of answer them away with at least air circulation by the air conditioning. But as we talked, did you hear that whisper?
Yes, I did.
Did you hear that whisper?
Yes, I did.
Just behind us.
Yes, I did.
Did you?
Yes.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
It sounded to me like just like tiny. And but like I said earlier on, we need to bear in mind this is, you know, sounds in here are going to be massively exaggerated because that's what the building was designed for. Can you feel that, Ken? Put your hand here. Can you feel that?
Yes, I can.
That's not natural.
Keep still.
There is a really strong cold wind coming from my right. I can feel it. Did you feel that cold, Jason? Did you?
Yes, I did.
This is starting to shake with the cold.
Yeah, now I am too. It felt easy.
What was that?
It must have been your camera.
Did you feel that?
No.
That was like something blew across my hand.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
it's so cold here.
Here. I had my hand just like that, and it blew across.
I'm getting very freaked out now, Jason.
Mark, Martin and Ian seemed to be having trouble finding their way around. Slowly, they were beginning to get a little spooked.
Wardrobe stuff.
You sure it's wardrobe? There's someone down there. Should we do that door?
Coat hanger rail, isn't it?
Yeah. Go open that door, Ian.
God, I tell you what, this is getting really freaky now. Oh, God!
Sod. This is back out for years. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Have we done that then? We went down those stairs and then went down a corridor. So how can we go downstairs, along the corridor, and up the same set of stairs?
We've just gone a massive circle round in that room.
While the smaller crew tried to find their way out, we decided to set up a shot of us walking along a corridor. Little did we know that there was something at the end of it.
Where? There was 2 legs just there. Where? Just here, just right across there.
2 legs there, just there. They were moving on their own.
I saw them.
I saw them. We all bloody saw them.
Here, facing this way, there was 2 set of legs, and it was just doing that.
I only saw the legs. I didn't see anything else.
What was he doing?
It was just like that.
Just moving
Just
like
moving
that.
like
There
that.
was 2 legs. They were just black silhouettes, and I saw them as well.
God, and that's why we all
I
ran.
did see them.
Why is it whenever we have lock-offs, we always put them in the wrong place?
This was the first location where some of us had seen what we considered to be a ghost. Who did the pair of legs belong to? Recently, a photographer was taking shots of the interior of the theatre. He swears nobody was on the stairs at the time this photograph was taken. Look closely on the right-hand side. Maybe this is the ghost who likes to walk the staircases, and maybe it was his legs that we saw. Carl, Stuart and Rick returned to the dark, empty auditorium, determined to have one last go at catching sight of the man in grey.
Sorry, I just thought I heard some... Then again, we are in an old building.
Freezing.
Whoa.
Feels crazy, doesn't it?
Is there a dress?
Rick began to experience some seriously weird sensations.
We are in the back. Sorry, Rick. You just said it feels like you're being followed.
Yeah.
Where from? The seat or? You all right? You all right? What's the matter?
Feels like someone just really hit me on the back of the neck or something.
You feel like someone's hit you on the back of the neck?
Yeah, like someone's just like a really hard massage and took my fingers.
There are reports of the man in grey being seen in a specific seat.
This is where He sits in this chair here. D. Why don't you go sit in there, Rick, and I'll come up the top.
In his chair.
His chair.
Sure.
There you go, mate.
Here's Stuart joining me. We'll spin the camera around for him. Hello. So this is the chair that I'm actually sat in. Which says ghost, I suppose.
With Rick and Stuart waiting for something paranormal to happen in the ghost chair, Carl was filming in the area where the man in grey has been seen walking.
This is feeling very weird. Pretty sure something just shot across the screen.
Carl had seen something. It was an orb, which is one of the first stages of a ghost manifestation. It seemed odd that it was caught on camera in the same place where Derek had made contact with the man in grey.
Let's go up top and see BT. Stu, flashes a light, mate, so I can see where I'm walking. Got you. Carl, where I was sat before, the actual, you know, the bit that pulls down to sit on?
Yeah.
It's come down.
It's come down?
Yeah. It was up because I just had the camera on it.
God, it is as well. It's down?
It's down. All the other chairs are up. This is where I was sat in that chair there. Stuart was sat here and the chairs spring back. See, the chairs do that, look. Every chair. So why is that like that? When I got up from that chair was up. So I just filmed it. It's come down on its own.
What I think is very strange is that is the actual chair that he's been seen in.
Was there some body in the auditorium with them? The chair coming down and the orb Carl had seen. Were they related to the ghost of the man in grey?
I was most taken back and enjoyed the idea of one particular spirit who took the time out to explain to me how individually, and he was the only one in the theatre out of all these spirits, to take the time out to help modern day actors and performers still to this moment in this theatre. Like when the cameraman says, step aside to the right or the left, he's still taking the time out. And that's not jealousy. I think he wants that performer to get the best from themselves to give the audience. That was most touching to me. Most touching.
Well, I can say categorically that I saw something very odd. It would look like a pair of legs. Two other people saw it, Yvette and Rick as well. We all saw the same thing at the same time, and that's the key. Because with so many ghost sightings, you get single, uncorroborated evidence where one person has had some sort of experience and you hear it secondhand as an anecdotal account. This is not that. This is three people seeing the same thing who have seen something they can't explain.
When I was first told about it, my psychic inclinations were telling me, yes, they most definitely have experienced this. And it wasn't in any way imagination. That was real.
As a possible explanation, I could say the usual things. We were very tired, it was very dark, perhaps we imagined it. But it would be very unusual if three people imagined the same thing at the same time in the same place. I did see that pair of legs. They were just there.
Now, naturally, I've got a guide who I rely upon. His name's Sam. And without him, really, my work wouldn't be as protected without his presence. He's always there for me and will not allow me to go too far and get too distressed, taking on those conditions of maybe what that spirit actually experienced.
Well, the investigation last night here at Theatre Royal, the most haunted theatre in the world, is extremely special for me because I followed in the footsteps of some of the great ghost hunters, Harry Price and James Wentworth Day, and I will always remember it.
Well, last night was a revelation for quite a few of us, and I definitely saw a pair of legs on the stairs. Whether they belong to a ghost, who knows? Until the next location, sleep tight.